Hey everybody, welcome to GT Live. I'm your host, Brandon Jones. Your community overlord this evening will be Elise Willems.
Hi.
We ain't got no codes today.
We code poor this episode, Brandon.
We only had some codes, but we do have an amazing community, so if you guys want to throw some questions at our guests, they are ready to answer them. And our guests are Daniel Lisi and Seiji Tanaka from Game Over.
Yes.
Which sounds negative. I'm just going to put that out there. You know, it's like you're a budding game development studio, and it's like Led Zeppelin. You're just starting right out the gate, and you're like, we're done. I mean, we're just going to make this one game here. You guys have a Kickstarter, which is on its way to being funded. I got good feelings about it.
Thanks, man.
For a game called Failsafe,
yes,
which is a first-person platforming adventure game.
Parkour
Adventure game. We were talking about parkour just a little bit. Parkour is popular. There are definitely lots of games. Of course, Assassin's Creed, which that was built on, had a satisfying installment this year. So we're gonna talk about that game really quick, and we're playing Lego Dimensions. Mr. Kyle Bossman is pouring out pieces. I want to point out we're playing Lego Dimensions because there's new figures that came out, which I'll mention in a second. But one thing that's really important to note about Lego Dimensions that's fun but also kind of absurd, Kyle loves it, is the when you buy a figure, there's no figure that comes by himself. Every figure comes with like a thing, like an object. So the Doctor comes with the TARDIS, he comes with K9.
Do you have to assemble all of those figures?
And you got to assemble. Well, the figures are easy. You just put the head on the body, on the legs, or hat, and you're good. But the vehicles that they come with don't actually have instruction manuals in the packaging. The instruction manuals for the vehicles are in the game. So Kyle has not been able to build the TARDIS or K. What are you building first? You building the TARDIS right now? Yeah. So he's not been able to build the TARDIS yet because the instructions are in the game. So now he finally accessed that point.
It was amazing. I wish everyone could have seen it. He was like a child. He got on his knees and he just dumped out the whole bag like it was Christmas morning.
I love that so much.
Perfect.
So really quick, Doctor Who got a level pack today, which is kind of like a play set. If you guys understand the terminology in Disney Infinity, so this is what they are going to play is the whole Doctor Who level. It's separate from the actual content that launched with Lego Dimensions. Unikitty from the Lego Movie has her own. She's got like a little jet, right? Yeah. A little like cloud jet.
Yeah, a little duck jet.
Bart Simpson, who needs no introduction, has his little like go-kart. And Ninjago have two new characters, Cole and Kai, who have their own little ninja vehicles. So all of that was added to Lego Dimensions today. We're going to be running through it. But your game is nothing like Lego Dimensions.
I wish it were. That's quite a lineup of characters.
And there's even more. I mean, these are just today that these were added.
Which officially licensed characters do you guys have?
Yeah.
Oh man, so many. We got none. None of them.
But you don't need them.
We don't need them. We have completely original characters.
Would you? I mean, if Failsafe blows up, if this character, what is the name of the female character?
Istra.
Istra.
Yeah.
You didn't make that easy, did you?
Nope.
Istra. Okay.
Istra.
Where did that name come from?
Istra comes from the Quran, and it translates roughly into nocturnal flight.
Yes. Hinting at something.
Nice. Because this is a darker game, and there's lots of flighty things happening.
Definitely, and I mean, there's been so many adjustments to the character itself as game development has gone on, and it's I think it still represents the character pretty well.
Voiced by Ashley Birch. Anthony is on the writing staff.
He's on the writing
staff. You got them Birches. So I think if you're doing a Kickstarter right out of the gate, that's probably a good place to start. But just, I mean, if this game blows up, this character blows up. People want figures and toys and stuff like that.
Lego Dimensions.
Would you be into? Yeah, would you be into like lending her to a fighting game or?
I would love to see Istra fight Legos alongside Bart Simpson. That would be so surreal. Yes.
So let's introduce people to the project. So, so Failsafe. What does Failsafe mean? Specifically, the words. Like, why is the game called Failsafe?
Yeah. So, Failsafe is a secret. There is the entire game is contingent on its exploration and having the player know as much as Istra does going into this forgotten civilization. So, somewhere inside of this forgotten civilization, which we've been purposefully elusive about, because we want that discovery process to be shared with Istra and the player. There is something inside of this world that is a failsafe, and that is reminiscent of the name.
Because I think I enjoy the juxtaposition of game over and failsafe. It's like failsafe would prevent the game over, right? It's like
yes. Our naming conventions all hinge on each other.
Game over. Use your failsafe.
Yes.
So what is your specific role on the project? You can let people know just what you're handling.
Creative director.
And what do you? So how did you? So you guys are a relatively. You're a new studio. You're a smaller studio. So how did you? I mean, managing director and creative director. those are words that I think most people can apply different meanings to depending on how they want their company to be run.
Super broad.
So what is the split naturally between your responsibilities?
Yeah, so I handle everything from like production to business development to media, and Seiji's end is everything handling the artistic direction, the design delegation. I think you'd be better at answering everything that you do.
You got the gist of it.
Yeah. I mean, like, so the entire game's aesthetic vision came out of Seiji's head, and I have been making sure that we remain on track to making sure that we finish it come summer 2016.
So I was gonna say, does Seiji ever propose something and you're like, whoa, and you gotta rein him in? Because he seems kind of like a crazy dude.
There are times where I am sitting at my desk and an idea gets shouted at me across from the office, and I have to digest it for a moment and then calmly have a talk about about the scope of what was just talked about. Absolutely, yeah.
So the TARDIS is built.
Oh crap.
No, it's
There you
good.
go.
That's not a bad
Done.
thing. It's all good.
So what happened when you plugged it in? Like what?
You can see it on screen
Hop into
here.
the game. There he goes. There's the TARDIS. You can hop in. You can fly it around.
That is so cool.
So there are locked. Right now we're in a locked perspective. You know that like most Lego areas have. I'm a big fan of like some of the more open world Lego games, Lord of the Rings and Marvel. But if you actually get into one of these open zones in Lego Dimensions, it's a flying vehicle, so you can actually just fly the TARDIS
Oh,
around.
that's dope.
And we were talking about earlier, you can change which Doctor you want to be. When the Doctor dies in the game, he naturally regenerates into another
So
Doctor.
amazing.
And
The intro screen changes according.
there was
to
actually
the
there was
Doctor.
an intro screen for the actual adventure that they're on.
That's so rad.
So there's more stuff that you have to announce, more characters probably you're going to announce, more
Yes.
more levels obviously we're going to see. There's going to be more trailers hopefully because I'm addicted to them. But right now it would seem like your work is probably, or the stuff that inspired you is probably most what's kind of carrying the game right now, because they go in and they see this world that that was your design. What were inspirations going into like what the world would look like?
Well, I mean, first of all, I can't take all the credit. Like, I have
Just take it. Just take it all.
amazing creative team. We have an amazing musician, a concept artist, and an environment artist, to name a few. So it's sort of a combination of everybody's inspiration. But personally, on my end, it's a lot of Ghibli films, Hayao Miyazaki, and a lot of animes like Akira and Ghost in the Shell.
Because it is an interesting, like, I see the world. I'm just gonna throw some stuff out here. I apologize for like, no, that's not. But like,
do it.
There is kind of a Tron vibe. You know, there is kind of this. You know, I feel like you're going into almost like a digital space. Like, I don't want to make guesses, and you're just like, spoiler. But at the same time, like, her character does seem more like traditional classic animation. Possibly, like Japanese inspired, like definitely seems like an anime character. So is it tough kind of blending those two things together? Because it looks like the world seems very futuristic, and she kind of has a fantasy vibe to her.
It's been a pretty holistic approach so far. Like, it hasn't been really tough seeing the aesthetic come about. Because like early builds especially do have this very Tron transistory sort of vibe, and the world that it is based in does have a similar aesthetic to it. And when we started combining these things together, they came about very naturally. It connected really well on a whole level, and nothing has felt forced or shoehorned in so far. Yeah.
I have to, congratulate you on your trailer. I dug that. We actually just posted that last week. It's a great trailer.
Thank you.
Epic Games just announced Paragon, one of their new games, and they had a terrible trailer. So a company as big as Epic Games can have a poor launch, a poor introduction of their game to the world. And I think this is great. I think
Thanks, man.
I think you can get a clear image of what the game's going to look like, how the game's going to play, but at the same time, tons of questions. Lots of people are going to want to know.
Thank you. There's so much blood that went into that trailer.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you.
That's why I love trailers. I love to smell the blood of trailers.
The meat that emanates off of it.
So you guys are. So this game is currently being kickstarted. It's currently along the Kickstarter journey.
It is.
Which I imagine is extremely stressful.
Oh my gosh.
To manage. You were chatting briefly about that earlier.
Yes.
And you were talking a little bit about, I don't know if you can get into specifics because it's all just money and contracts and backdoor deals and all that stuff, but just why Kickstarter? Why was that the goal?
Yeah, so we want to primarily remain as an independent studio. We could take the investment route and dilute the company up a bit. And we felt that with the kind of decisions that we're making in terms of gameplay and the world that we're building, it isn't typically considered a safe project for investment capital, and so it feels like we would be prevented from making these kinds of games. And that, like, the way that Failsafe was created too was after heavy experimentation and a lengthy pre-production phase, which I don't think that we would normally have the freedom to execute if we were working under like someone else's financial deadline. So just thinking long term of the studio that we want Game Over to be, we want to have that freedom remain with us.
What do you want Game Over to be? Like, when you guys are, taking out of, context the actual game that you're making, like the actual company that you're putting together, if you were to, create a development studio and then make your first game, is it important to both of you guys that game is very representative of the studio as a whole? Or are you guys like, hey, we just want this game to be successful, we want this company to be successful, let's just make a game that we know is going to be cool, that people are going to like? Or it really has to be in tune with what Game Over is?
I mean, I definitely think there's a balance there, which I think is interesting, like with our dichotomy here, where it's like, my job specifically, it's like, yes, of course I want that. Like, I want this game to represent the studio. It's like, but we also have to, what up, Ian?
They can't see me.
But we also want, to remain a financially solvent studio so we can continue to make games. So there's like, it can't be one or the other. Like, you can get percentages of either or. What do you say to that? Like, I feel like Failsafe has definitely remained true to the spirit of like what we're doing. How do you feel?
What is the spirit of Game Over?
Let's figure it out right now.
Let's hash this out.
Mission statement.
So I mean, in terms of like other studio structures that we've been like modeling ourselves after, it's like I'm really inspired by Double Fine, by Capybara Games, and the way that they've been able to build this new studio model, especially in the wake of like the independent scene. Because like in the business world, like the games industry changed considerably when indie games became a financial thing. Like, you can release a game, anyone can release a game, and anyone can now make money off of that. Like, you're no longer contingent on hardware distribution or any sort of distribution rights with like your GameStops or EB Games. I don't know if EB Games still exists. And so these new studios came up where it's like it kind of filled in the gap that middle-sized game development studios left when they started crumbling because they couldn't remain competitive. And so, yeah, I feel like that's the kind of direction that Game Over is taking in its long-term vision.
Is this a kind of game where you want to, would you like to franchise this? Was that like a dream, or would it be really great to just like have this game be really successful and then we can move on to a new project, a new vision?
Yeah, I mean, I think that with what like us as game developers who get easily bored by like working on things for prolonged periods of time, like the development cycle that we proposed for Failsafe is only 1.5 years long. So I'm pretty sure like we're going to want to move on to other projects and try out different ideas instead of just sticking with the same thing. Like, I think that's going to be another sort of spiritual thing about Game Over, is that we want to try a bunch of stuff. We have like every game developer at the studio has like a binder just with ideas and like scrapbook aspirations. So we're gonna want to try to do things outside of Failsafe.
At least you're always breaking out your binder, and I'm like, Elise, the binder enough.
The rings are opening.
The papers are everywhere.
A question we had from Agent 00ND was, with projects after Failsafe, do you think you'll stick to platformer parkour, or like what kind of styles of games? Like, do you guys have a genre that you'd love to develop in after Failsafe?
Do you? So the tech we're developing for Failsafe is pretty special, and it would be great to be able to take that DNA that we're constructing right now and apply it to a totally different world or gameplay context.
Like, could you guys see if Failsafe is really successful, could you see yourselves taking that and making a sequel and then being like, okay, here's everything we learned that we can do better now?
Potentially.
Maybe getting more money.
For sure, yeah. Like, and the thing with the movement tech that we've made, it's like we can easily take that movement style and apply it into a different kind of game. And with Failsafe specifically, like, we did intentionally set out to make a game that wasn't violent. Like, we didn't want to make a game where Easter was just like straight stabbing people and stuff. So it's a totally non-violent game, barring the giant robot fight that happens every now and then. So it's like we have been thinking like since then. It's like, so we have a dope parkour system now. what if we did have guns? Like, what could we do with that? So yeah, like it's if we see that people are hungry for this style of game, we can totally apply it in different ways, like even outside of Failsafe. And in terms of the writing, like Bo Sia, who is another part of the writing staff, writing it with Anthony Birch, he has expressed ideas that could lead to another Failsafe if the situation found itself to let us do that.
First-person parkour, that ain't easy. You know, I don't think that's something that even just like super mega AAA developers that have been doing, you know, first-person parkour or first-person games, like, they still haven't really totally figured that out. You know, like,
right.
I remember where there was an era where, you know, any kind of jumping in a first-person game was just like, oh, what are you doing? You know, and it's like, I can't see the platform. It's you know, like, it's so much easier to, like, figure out where this character is looking at a third person as opposed to first person. So that's a tough thing to do for first game, first company. Why'd you do that to yourself?
Yeah, it came out of that experimentation phase. When we started off, like, Failsafe was a completely different game than it is now. We started making, I came to Seiji with this concept last summer, and we started as a studio in December 2014. And I was like, let's make a spy game with super spies in the future. And so we went in this phase where we just started experimenting on mechanics. So we didn't have anything. We were a new studio, we had nothing. So it was just like, let's like paper prototype some mechanical ideas and spend some time hashing them out. And then it was when Evan Hemsley, our designer programmer who's on our team now, came on board and then started messing with the movement systems and started implementing some parkour-esque movement and acrobat, because like the Isra as the character was always going to be this athletic character with acrobatics, and then he started making it to where she could grapple onto walls and bounce off of ledges and then bounce from a ledge into another platform or whatever. And we're like, oh, this is really cool. And so we kind of stumbled onto this like really awesome foundation for parkour movement systems, and we're like, we did acknowledge at the very beginning that that movement style is extremely experimental and rough to do, but we found a base for it and we decided to run with it.
And that's kind of a wonderful place to be for game development, right? That like it's not like we have this really fun idea, it's just not working, but we got to get it there.
Yes.
As opposed to, hey, let's play around with this character, and then wow, this really fun gameplay surfaced from that. Let's refine this. And see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, like we're extremely privileged as developers to have like found ourselves in a scenario to allow ourselves to do that. And I think that Failsafe really glows as a result of it.
And it also literally glows. I mean,
it literally glows. There's so much bloom. Oh my gosh.
There's a lot.
You guys put it there.
Is that part of development? Just that bloom.
Just gotta like paint that bloom.
Where are we at with bloom today? 30%.
Gotta jack it up to 70.
I gotta be curious, because the actual, I'm familiar with games going through the Kickstarter process, but like I've never done that, personally, and that's curious how the pace of development affects a game when it actually goes into Kickstarter, because as you mentioned, like you've had a ton of pre-production going in to the game, more than some games. Some people just stroll up. This one guy who made this Symphony of the Night game, he strolls up with just a drawing and he's like, "Here, give me money," and everybody throws money at him.
Yeah.
Whereas like you guys, you got a trailer, you've seen the game in engine, we have a cast, there's more information, but like there's a lot of things in place. But at the same time, like we don't know if this is gonna get funded. Like you might not want to make the decision like, hey, let's just pretend like it is funded and keep going. So like, how have you adjusted to the pace? Are there things you're waiting to do before you hit that mark?
I mean, like development hasn't stopped. I mean, there was definitely, especially the first couple of days, we kind of just organically stopped what we were doing in the office and tunnel visioned on the Kickstarter, because it's hard not to. Like we're all just like watching these numbers. So it's, like that's really only been the difficult thing to get over in terms of productivity in the office right now. It's like making ourselves stop watching the flippin' Kickstarter screen and actually going back to work. But aside from that, I mean, it's pretty much business as usual. We're continuing to make the game. And we will continue to make the game. Like this is all we do. Like,
so Kickstarter is an avenue. It's not a deal breaker.
Yeah. If the Kickstarter does fail, we're gonna keep making the game. We're gonna figure out a way of continuing to pay people and figure out just how to still get this game done by summer 2016. It's not gonna. We've come too far, and it's not gonna be this thing where it's just like we've thrown the towel. No way. Yeah.
So really quickly before we move on to talking about our countdown for the week, just chat a little bit more about LEGO Dimensions. So what has happened, guys? I noticed you're going in and out of the TARDIS. So have you actually time traveled to another world?
We've time traveled, yeah.
Or to another time, rather?
So we went back in time and planted a tree. I think that's a pretty regular time travel thing.
For sure. Because trees take time to grow.
Yeah.
So it's a good good identifier. How do you feel about this, Brad?
It's pretty cool. I feel like people would lose these pieces really easily, though. I'm
Yeah,
worried about that.
But at the same time, they're Lego, so it's like they
Yeah.
couldn't like make the Lego differently or like put glue in there. And they're like, hey, just glue those Legos
Yeah.
together.
No,
It'd be
we
cool
gotta
if
go
it
back to
came
the
with like
future
a
now.
PlayStation
No,
satchel
right.
that you can put around your console, so you can keep all your pieces.
I just know that I would step on one of those. Guaranteed.
Yeah, those hurt.
Oh, we're doing great though. This is a
Yeah.
blast.
Kyle, how did you still enjoy the instructions being inside of the game?
Absolutely, I
you
enjoy
built
that.
the TARDIS, and you built the TARDIS and K9.
Yeah, K9 is constructed.
So now are all the objects that we got from the latest haul of Lego Dimensions are all built.
Everything's built, dude.
Got all that stuff there. You ready to go?
Everything's constructed. We got a full little table over here.
How does it feel?
It feels like it's really interesting to describe this. It feels gratifying to build this thing in real life and then
Yeah.
have it represented inside the game.
Yeah.
That thing that you just constructed and then it's like there. It's like, hey, all right.
Because I kind of like one of the things that cracked me up is I was building. You actually build the base, and I actually apologize. I don't know if you can see it on camera. The base isn't actually there. There's like a Lego thing that you attach onto the base. That's just like the plastic, electronic thing that you need. But there's a big elaborate thing that I have at home that you build around it. And there's like one little like mechanical thing on the side that had a little doohickey sticking out and a little blue thing you stick on that. And I remember like putting it on there and being like, what is this? Like what does this actually do? This little lever here. And then the thing appeared in the game and the camera was right near it and I saw that little doohickey thing on the side. It was just it is weird.
That's the greatest.
To kind of have that like one-to-one. So yeah, the merchandising for your game, you're not afraid to do that. If
We
you could
got
have
some pretty adorable characters.
I've been trying to sell those birches on Birch Merch
Birch
for
merch.
so long. Every time I see Ash, I'm like, we gotta get that Birch Merch off the ground.
Oh man.
And she acts like she likes it, but I haven't seen any mock-ups.
She acts like she likes
She won't
it.
wear the T-shirts I keep sending her that just say Birch Merch on them.
Oh my
Which
God.
is an actual merchandise.
I will
spot.
wear a Birch Merch t-shirt if
Thank
you send
you.
it to me. I will support a Birch Merch.
You
Why
guys,
don't you start that Kickstarter?
yeah,
Birch Merch Kickstarter.
maybe we
Just
work
start
in
merchandising
tandem.
them. Like, don't even tell them. You don't need their permission.
Anthony likes having his face put on stuff, right?
For sure. Who
Right?
doesn't?
I like that. Yeah, everyone on your staff just has these big, smiling faces in your development staff, and there's Anthony. Like, ugh.
Oh yeah, on the website. Yeah. Just like.
It's like,
oh,
what image
fuck.
you want to see? Like, I use this one. So let's talk countdown. So we have a segment on our show called Number 11. We talk about the top 10 that we're doing for that week. I got Mr. Kyle Bossman in the room because Kyle wants to talk about one of our games for number 11. Ian is a fan of the other game that we're going to talk about for number 11.
Hi.
This is one of them. Oh, Ian is also in there. Ian's, you got your light on. It's
Hi.
much brighter in the booth today, Ian.
Yeah, I had to put a new light bulb in here.
It's hot.
It's a bit much, honestly. It looks okay on camera. In real life, it's like daytime in here.
Well, you're warm enough in there as it is.
Yeah.
So now you're just like, it's like how they keep French fries warm at McDonald's. They just like put you in there.
Yeah, they put a TriCaster next to them.
Right. It's expensive, but
Yeah.
those fries are delicious.
Yeah.
This is actually the reason we did the top 10 sewers because our fans really, really wanted us to do top 10 sewers.
All right.
And we could only say no for like
So
half a
long.
year. And
Right,
we're like,
yeah.
all right, finally buckled. But every now and then our community comes up with really good suggestions, and they came up with one top 10 sevens. So you guys are making a game.
Yeah.
So say you make Failsafe. Failsafe comes out. You're really holding out for that Game Trailers review. Game Trailers review comes out 7. Are you bummed? Is everyone 7?
7. I think
What's a 7 to you?
that's kind of a little heartbreaking.
Yeah?
7s are
But
heartbreaking.
it's a 10-point scale. We have this argument all the
Sevens
time.
are bad.
7 is a C.
Yeah,
That's a
that's
C
what I
rating.
say. I don't care how many times you say it. If you're on an out of 10 scale, you're on the school system scale. That's what everyone's gonna say. A 7 is a C. That means you're a failure.
Yeah, 70% is just like a shrug. Like,
Yeah.
That reads as a shrug to me.
When we said 7s, we meant like could be a 7.1, a 7.2. It's
Right.
within the range. So a lot of the games that are on this list, some are
I was
like
just
a
curious. I just want to get
7.8.
that emotional draw because I think that's why it comes up a lot because like I've given games something in the 7 range that like I would recommend. I think the main thing for me with 7s is you're starting getting into the category of you should probably know what you're getting into with this game. because it's a good game. Like there are really good things in there,
Word.
but depending on what type of player you are, you may not dig it. Whereas anything 8 or above, it's like give it a shot. Like this game's just great. You should check it out.
Yeah,
like,
so you have like a universal gamer system that your 7
right.
is
Yeah. So
derived from.
like then that's when I'd kind of have to ask questions about the person to know like okay
yeah.
this this might not fit in there. So point being, there's lots of good things to say about 7s, and we did our top 10 7s. We went back through the Game Trailers review library, added up all the games that we'd give 7.0 to 7.9. And because those scores were decided by one person, we all, collaborated as a group and picked the 7s that we liked. But unfortunately, Soma did not make the list, which I feel bad because I was the one who gave it a 7.8. Kyle, would you like to say the game that you enjoyed? That we gave a 7? Do you remember the actual score that we gave this game?
It was a low. This one's a low 7. It's not one of the higher 7s.
What was the game, Kyle?
Everyone, I tried to fight hard to get this on the list. I couldn't do it. A game called Sonic Unleashed. This is a Sonic game in which, yeah, sure, you're a werehog for some of it, but you're also Sonic the Hedgehog in some of the best Sonic the Hedgehog levels that have ever existed. People always forget there's hub worlds. People say half that game is good. No, 2/3 of that game is good because there's a hub world. Great hub worlds. You're traveling around the world. You're globe-trotting. There's a god. The god that created everything is like a little flying imp that hangs out with you. Like the story is heavy, and it's just a blast.
Well, you didn't say any of that in the countdown meeting.
I did. I tried so hard.
Yeah,
He tried. We shut it down.
Kyle never he never really asserts his opinions too heavily in the.
Oh,
my
the
god!
the old review graphics.
This is the
Oh,
old
that's so
review
good.
graphic.
I just grabbed the.
Man.
I did not know that.
Well, that's funny because I grabbed the review and I just took the end, the top and the bottom off of it. But we used to have those transitions.
Those
We used to have a
hilarious.
different division. This is an old school GT review. So
That was a dumb
score story separately,
review
and gameplay
games.
separately.
Never thought I would hear the word werehog.
There it is.
There it is.
Hang out here
Now
for
you
like
can't
20
unhear
minutes.
it.
It just
Yeah.
happened.
It comes up at least once in every episode.
So Kyle, we've said some negative things on this show, on countdowns, on other works that we've done at Game Trailers about Sonic the Hedgehog. This is a good thing. We're saying good things about Sonic right now. This is a game that you like, that was made, that Sonic is in. Is this what you want from Sonic? If there was a new Sonic game coming, would you say make it more like Sonic Unleashed?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to turn into a werehog for sure. We don't. That doesn't have to be an aspect of it. But oh man, just like being Sonic, exploring the world, having hub worlds, having crazy fast speed levels. It's like the best.
The best. The best on the console, the best just the best in general.
The
best Sonic game on the Wii.
I'll say it. The best Sonic game anywhere. That's not a Wii
Whoa.
game.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Just one person, The opinions of Cal Bossman do not necessarily
do not
reflect the opinions of
necessarily
Game Trailers, nor myself, nor KQ Live, nor Game Over.
It's the best Sonic game. It's like the most consistent. It's
Just stop it, Kyle.
Okay.
Kyle, just stop.
Kyle's a 7 on the drunkenness scale. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Soma was another game that maybe I should explain myself. I'm the one that gave it a 7.8. You really you said some really kind things about Soma. You actually used a very interesting adjective before we started the show
What did I say?
about Soma. I can't remember.
Man, well, like
It wasn't like beautiful, but it
it
was
has
something like.
pamphlets. You can pick up the pamphlets.
This is true.
pamphlet
it has,
physics.
Yeah, big
it just
pamphlet
has like so
game.
many great knickknacks inside of it, and I think that like it's developed by the Chinese Room, right? Is that correct?
No,
No?
frictional games.
Frictional. Oh,
Yeah.
man, why did I think Chinese Room?
Because Chinese
Um,
Room worked on Amnesia 2 with frictional games.
Okay, that's where my lines got crossed. But there's like really delightful attention to detail that is inside of that game. Like things that you don't need to pay attention to, which I love, like pillows being floppy, and like it's amazing when that happens.
I think the greatest thing for me about Soma was the story. There's not a lot of games. Like when a game has a heavy story, you finish the game and then you think about that game's story. But then this game's story made me think about all sorts of other crazy stuff. Nice to get my name in there. Yeah, I got my
You stinker.
this episode.
You stinker,
and
Brandon.
edited by Brandon Jones. But there's just lots of really deep concepts going on here. Lots of stuff that, as a society, we're gonna have to deal with because we are going to, in our lifetimes. Unless I get hit by a bus, walking out of the building today, like we're gonna talk to robots, we're gonna have artificial intelligence, we're gonna
Challenge
have
accepted.
what? Yeah, exactly. I'm leaving after Ian. It's official.
No, that'll give me time to get to
I know
my
I have to
bus.
leave first. Yeah, okay, I'll have to leave first. Keep an eye on Ian after the show. We at least appreciate it.
And the story really unfolds in kind of a disturbing way.
Very disturbing. Oh yeah, this game wants to mess you up big time.
I've only played about half of it, But I really liked what I intend to finish it. I really like this game. But yeah, it like what she was saying, like it is really cool how the information is doled out. Like, cause I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure this is what I am, what's happening here. And then you find out like what that is, and I'm like, oh, okay. But like, I wish I was freaking out more. But like, yeah, it's cool.
And
I
when
like
you start
this
to
game.
learn all the world events surrounding your situation.
Yeah.
Within the game.
Yeah, it's a lot of high concept, because you think it's just like, ooh, spooky water thing, but then you're like, oh, this is sci-fi as hell. It's cool.
It's got a great attitude. There's some really fun conversations that you have with some of the characters in the game.
There's some of your pamphlets there, Daniel.
Yeah.
Those
One
are
thing that I thought was weird that I bring up in the review is that this is my example right here. I'm like, that's a cat. That's a cartoon guy. That's weird to me. What do you think, Seiji? I mean, you're a creative director. Can you get away with something like that? Like, this is a picture of a real cat. In the world you are in, cats look like this, like real cats. Here's a picture of a guy. He's not a real guy. He's a drawing of a guy. You know, like, could you like the characters in Failsafe are very artistic. Could you just throw in like a real looking dude and get away with it?
Wouldn't it be hilarious
Pixar
if we
did
did?
it, so
I'm sorry, what?
Pixar did it.
In Wall-E.
Yeah.
Oh, this is true. Yeah. Well, I thought that was weird in Wall-E.
That was weird.
It was
Wait,
so
when
weird.
did they
yeah,
do it
Fred
in
Willard
Wall-E?
shows up like, I'm a real person. All you like
Oh,
Jello
right,
people.
yeah.
It's so weird.
That was really weird.
Can I say, Riala728 says, I like pink shirt guy. He doesn't mess around. I think it's more of a rust red, personally.
They
but
say it's a salmon pink. Salmon.
I do agree that you don't mess around.
Seiji does not mess around. Very rarely.
Picks his words. Very.
But
careful.
wait, my shirt is also pink. How do we know?
Can we?
How do
ask
we
for
know your shirt's
clarification?
pink, or how do we know?
Which
Who they're
of us
talking
doesn't mess around? Which of
I
us?
think we know. Trust
I
me, I think
mess
we know.
around, yeah.
What if we go to our trailer now and then come back and it's just pink lights, pink, the logo's pink.
All right.
Everything's
This
turned
entire
pink.
wardrobe change.
Unikitty's pink.
Are we going to the badass trailers?
We are going to go to a badass trailer right now.
I'll click
I actually
something.
did some trailer scores this week on trailers I didn't like. But I was digging through and I found a trailer that I dug. I don't know. Do you guys like Halloween? I love Halloween.
Yeah.
Halloween's the best.
hard not to like.
I'm like going through withdrawals. But technically, this trailer came out the day after the last cycle of GT Live. So this was released last Thursday before Halloween. It is for Evolve, which is a game I know you're thinking like, oh yeah, last year's game. Evolve was this year. Evolve happened this year. Still more content updates coming to Evolve. There's a new monster coming to Evolve called the Gorgon. And they released a very spooky trailer of all of the trailers that were released last week and this week. This is my favorite. It is badass. It is The Gorgon Cometh for Evolve. Check it out.
In the future, mankind has set its sights on the stars. In pursuit of resources, in pursuit of profit. The world of Sheer and the far arm of the galaxy had plenty of both. But let's be honest, we were never any good at sharing the planet. On November 3rd, bust out the heavy artillery. She's clever. She's creepy. But most of all, she's just one bad bitch. The Gorgon cometh.
Yeah, nice with the scary, the scary wipe. We are back. We are more pink now. It's happened. It's a fancier show. I gotta admit. I feel more comfortable.
Yeah,
How do you
the-
feel
the-
about the new colors? We don't have players anymore.
It makes me feel pretty.
Okay, where the hell did you guys go? You don't get to just leave.
Ghost couch.
The best trailer's over.
Okay.
Look at that empty.
That's not back.
Look at depressingly empty couch right there.
Get back to your couch.
Gotta get your drink.
Whoever
Game
deserves better than
servant.
this, man. You should just fucking leave. So let's get back to talking about your game. So, So you were talking a little bit about, you had the idea, you brought it to Seiji, and you guys kind of went from there. Do you guys have is there a right or wrong way to develop a game? I mean, like where, you had that idea, but where did that idea come from? Like what is the absolute genesis, the beginning of game development for you guys?
I mean,
that's you.
Oh, geez.
Just passes it off. That's you.
Well, like, to answer the question about there being a right or wrong way, no way. There's no way. It's such an early art form still. Like, it's still figuring itself out. So, like, I mean, there are definitely, like, methods, and I think that, the producer side of me is going to talk about this. Like, we started off with this, like, Scrum-ish kind of development style at the beginning, and I was, like, trying really hard to, like, add some degree of structure to it, to the development cycle, and to really make sure that people's time was being spent properly on, like, feature X, and we got rid of that so fast. I mean, like, it didn't get rid of necessarily, but, like, it was amazing how Game Over as a studio just took that model and then chewed it up and then turned it into something completely different that accommodated the studio itself. And so like we invented our own development style that was born out of how each individual developer like works with each other and how those interpersonal dynamics work, and then development came from that. Yeah.
You mentioned some of your, Capybara and Double Fine.
Yeah.
Do you know people that work there? Have you ever kind of experienced how those companies work?
I've like met a few in passing. I don't have any personal basis or anything. So all of my research that I did on like studio structures and stuff previous, and like my aspirations and stuff, aren't really based in a personal relationship. And I don't know how their development cycles work, but the independent developers and small teams that I've spoken to have very similar stories about how kind of organic their development style is. And I think that if there are any like new developers starting out or new studios that are starting out, I think that would be my advice in some ways, that like try not to force a structure, like let the structure come to you.
So I have a question for you, Seiji. So you have a gorgeous female character. She's got very long hair flowing behind her. I'm sure it's like...
It's a scarf.
Oh, it's a scarf, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, yeah, she's got short hair.
She's got short hair, that's right. No, we just showed
And a
footage
gorgeous
of that earlier.
scarf.
She does have short hair, that's true.
Beautiful scarf.
She's got, gorgeous scarf. Maybe pink. You should maybe think about making the scarf pink in the future.
Okay.
But, you have this amazing character art, but it's first person. So how do you... focus on really identifying me, like, this is you. I mean, like, if you play someone like Half-Life, like, you're kind of not supposed to look at Gordon Freeman. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, you are this guy. Like,
Yes.
I don't want you seeing him. I want you really, like, embody this character. Are there lots of cutscenes planned for the game? I mean, like, what's, like, how much time do you spend actually in her body as opposed to watching her, which we do a lot in the trailer?
Yeah.
That's a good question, and we still don't really have a solid answer to that. But if you take a game like Mirror's Edge, for example, it's complete. Well, it does have cutscenes, but you still, while you're in the first-person view, you still have this sense of identity that you're playing as her, and it's important that you know what she looks like and how she acts. So I'm taking a cue from that, and to make sure that the player knows who you are as a character and who you're playing.
Because it's interesting. We were just talking about Soma earlier, and Soma actually doesn't do that. Soma actually very intentionally doesn't show you.
Yeah.
And kind of lets you just like the first time you're actually kind of step away, and you're like, that was not what I was expecting. So that's interesting. Yeah, that you identify that, because I mean, potentially if you're gameplay really seems to be your focus. You really want the first person to be rock solid.
Yeah, definitely.
You want people to be able to navigate these puzzles. So I think it's cool that that you identified. No, it is also very important that you are represented this character, that you know what she looks like. You can identify with her.
Yeah, and I think the reasoning behind that is twofold, because the narrative is hugely contingent on the relationship between Istra, Ashley's character, and the robot, Dante Bosco's character. And so we found it important to not make it this faceless character that you can kind of install yourself into, that it is very much Istra, because the narrative is how these two characters grow with each other through this journey. And also, the second part of why it was important is because we have a first-person camera, but it's like Istra is still dynamically moving. in the world, and the way that we've set up our animation styles, like with inverse kinematics and stuff, like everything that she does or that you do, like she's actually doing in the world. There's no like camera magic that's happening. Like her body is there, and that's been very important for the orientation of the player in this first-person game. That her body is super dynamic with the environment. Because it's so easy for a player to get lost, like visually, with such crazy vertical and horizontal movements inside of a first-person space. But if her body is always there, and if her body always reacts a certain way to the environment and can react to everything in the environment, it really helps in player orientation and getting them grounded with the playstyle.
One game that I actually think has done a good job, just based on my experience with it so far, is Battleborn, because the very extreme, bizarre characters that have Ashley is also in that game as well. And like, you know, so some of them will just have the traditional gun up, and some will like they'll shoot with their hands, or some like all their spells are all different crazy things. Characters like will have cloaks that if they're falling, the cloak will come up in camera and you actually see it.
Yeah.
So it feels a lot more that like, this is just the way the character animates. Here are where your eyeballs are, so you're going to see it all. You know, like,
exactly.
So some characters are very obstructed, but it's kind of cool to see their hands actually doing the motion every time.
Yeah, definitely. Did you like Battleborn? Are you excited for it?
I've dug it. I actually, you know, we have like huge Blizzard fans. You know, we have a huge Blizzard fan on the couch there, and Mr. Brad Ellis. So Overwatch, I think, is kind of winning out as far as like people being excited.
I see.
I actually just finally played multiplayer, which is, and I told the devs, I was like, single player does not sell this game, guys. Like, it's fun, and like, and the script is great because it's, you know, it's Gearbox, and they're fun. You know, like they bring a lot of weight to their characters, and they have a way to like make just huge, massive robot you're fighting, like actually give them a fun personality and like a weird, like quirky, you know, dialogue and stuff. But multiplayer for me was the big factor, because it's like, I want to decide, I'm not just going to pick this guy because he's a bird. Like, I want to pick this guy because he flies and has rockets, and it works good for this multiplayer mode. Whereas when I was playing single player, it's like, I'll pick the melee guy, I don't care. You know, it's like not actually going to like make this easier or anything. But I mean, does like her scarf get in the way, or is there any time, have you ever like done a mode or something, you're like, whoops, there's her shoulder, like can't adjust that?
The scarf definitely flaps into the.
I mean, it actually serves a purpose, especially when you're using a grappling hook and you're swinging around. It's easy to get disoriented on which direction you're going in. So, if it's in the view and you see it flowing, kind of gives you like a direction to get yourself oriented with.
One thing I was fascinated about with when Destiny came out was they had these open worlds, these kind of like little hubs that you would travel to, and we're led to believe they were so much bigger than they actually were. So you would like bump on the moon, I'd like get to a cliff, and then I'd see there's way more moon out there. But for some reason, I can just tell right away I'm not supposed to go there. You know, I can kind of see that like it's going to keep going, but it's just far enough that it just clicks in my first person gamer brain that I'm like, okay, that's Bungie telling me don't go that way.
Word.
You have this, you know, like you were saying, the kind of transistor Tron-ish. We're kind of like in a little zone right now, like dimensions. It's like kind of out in, you know, space in this ethereal sci-fi realm. It's like a little bit similar to that. And so there may be the tendency for players to think like, well, I'll just go this way, and then whoops, I fell off the ledge. Like, is it tough to kind of, you know, telegraph, to kind of point people? You don't want to put arrows on the ground, but kind of to like steer people in the right direction and be like, this block in the background is there because it looks cool. Don't jump there. You're supposed to go in this direction.
No, we kind of want to encourage it. We want to encourage people to kind of test the
fall
paths
to their
that they can take. Fall to their death, yeah, for sure. That's been intention that we've been trying to figure out, because we do have these like very large areas that you can currently walk around, and I mean there is definitely a very intentional like narrative path, but the game emphasizes a lot of like flow and like blasting through this and like doing all this parkour and making it feel awesome while you're doing it. But we also want to encourage this level of like a player to maybe take some time to stop and look around and kind of test how far they can go inside of the game itself.
Have you, developers always talk about how much they love, like, I didn't even know you could do that in our own game. You know, we handed this off. That's what betas are for. That's what day one patches are for, where it's just like, wasn't expecting, all of these different variables. Have you already had that even just within the development staff? Like maybe, some people that are testing your game out, or the coders just wow, look at that thing.
Pretty frequently. Like there's generally always someone that finds something to do that we're like, what? How did this happen? Like one of them, because right now we have like a series of time trial maps, and one of our programmers we were convinced that the fastest that we could beat a map in time trial was like a minute and a half. Like that's the fastest you could do this. And then we saw our leaderboard because we implemented an internal leaderboard system, and he got it in like 30 seconds, and we did not know how this happened. And it's because like he just playing it over and over and testing the rope physics that we have. He's like able to find like tiny shortcuts and then another shortcut path, and he could circumvent one of the grappling points, and then he was just able to make his own path and then destroy everyone on the leaderboards. And so like it feels like pretty consistently, especially when we go public. Like we were just at IndieCade a couple of weekends ago. There's always a person. There's always someone that just like walks in from the shadows and finds something, be it like an extraordinary bug that does like launches Isthra like 1,000 yards across the world, or something else.
I think we're almost there. Oh yeah, we're definitely in question territory. Are you prepared for community questions?
I hope so.
I mean, I have lots more stuff I can ask you.
Let's do this.
Oh, I have a ton of questions.
I want to hear more about this game.
Are you
Darn it.
ready?
Planet Yavin wants to know any VR aspirations for Failsafe. Have you guys has that even entered your realm of thought with this game yet?
Every day.
Really?
Think about it. Yeah, I don't know. We can't commit anything to saying that we're going to be on VR right now. It's totally interesting to us though.
Cool. Jeff Goldblum wants to know, or says, I really appreciate the elegant way that the tutorial in the pre-alpha footage shows the user how to control the game.
Cool.
Was this something that you wanted to incorporate from the beginning, or did you add it because you found that players were confused, or it was too difficult for the new player to grasp?
Yeah, I mean, we've got an experimental button input system. There is a lot of action that you can do with one button that is contextual to Isthra's momentum and where she is in the world. And it was definitely necessary for us to convey like this is how you play the game. Yeah. And so like in some tutorial builds there will definitely be like some explicit like this is how you put in the buttons. It'll be a bit more elegant and in the final game of how it's conveyed.
Cool. This is a question for Seiji from Christian. You showed some love for anime, referencing I think did you mention Ghost in the Shell earlier? Do you have any aspirations for an anime video game? Is that something you'd ever try to work on in that style?
No, actually.
No. Just keep them separate.
It's just kind of I didn't have an intention to create an anime-inspired video game, but it's just like over the course of like developing this game, working with my artist who is also very strongly inspired by anime, it just sort of naturally emerged between us, and like this works for us, and it's a good style.
Cool.
Just to expound upon that, I mean, like, do you prefer to do that? As, we kind of talked about a little bit with gameplay, but like less like I have this very specific type of vision. I want us to meet that, versus let's just kind of explore and see where we go. And then when we're done, if we look back and go, yeah, I guess that's anime. I wasn't really thinking about it at the time. Do you prefer that? Just the kind of open,
right,
organic,
freedom? Yeah. Like I do definitely have certain like this is what I want to see, but like usually bouncing off of other people, something better comes up, and it's better to just roll with that.
Kayugi wants to know, when I think of parkour, I think of being able to take multiple different routes. And so my question is, will it be open world or will it be set stages or levels?
Yeah, open world is a tricky thing to define it as. It's not open world.
Definitely not open world.
Not open world. But like within levels, there are multiple paths. So like each level that you're progressing through, and a level is kind of like a section of this civilization that Isthra is progressing through. And there will be multiple paths to take. So yes, we want to encourage the player to explore and find what is fun for them.
Cool. So when you create a level, do you think, okay, here's the easier pathway, and then here's the pathway that I hope someone will take?
That is like totally intention, yeah.
Really?
Like we have an easier path because we're also thinking that like with our movement mechanics, you can totally go easy mode with it and just breeze through something, but it leaves the door open for some really complex maneuvers, especially with the physics-based rope that we have, and you can like spin yourself around and then launch yourself in a direction, which is a bit more of a like I guess advanced player. I don't want to say advanced player tactic. I don't know. So like those more challenging paths will be accessible to like those people who can execute those tricky maneuvers.
Cool. Joetown17 says, in my experience of backing games on Kickstarter, it's not uncommon for games to miss their initial release, sometimes being years late. It's made me reluctant to back video games on Kickstarter. How important is it to you to finish your game by your initial release date goal, and like what do you do to stay on track? How are you planning that?
It's my entire job. Not entire. It's a big part of my job. So like I think that this is it adds to Seiji and I's work relationship where it's like he gets to remain totally focused on the creation and of this game, and I get to focus then on like while I get to focus on like the creative aspects of the game and see that happen, and it's a really beautiful process to witness, really. But I also it's my job to make sure that this remains on track and it remains within scope, and that's always an interesting thing. Like when it comes to Kickstarters, that it has the potential to blow up scope as well, or to just completely miss the dark entirely. But this is something that we've mapped out from the beginning. We've projected summer 2016 since the day we started development. We've been very adamant of remaining on this 1.5-year development cycle, and we are still estimated that we're remaining within that time frame.
Nice. Kind of building on this, Christian wants to know, do you think like big Kickstarters with a lot of publicity like Shenmue can impact these smaller independent Kickstarters? Like, is that something that you guys are faced against, where you're competing for attention?
I think totally. But I mean, I think that's like any industry sort of thing. It's like you are competing against other people. I think with Kickstarter in particular, we've seen examples of Kickstarters that have launched, like, unfortunately with Shenmue, and like we see these Kickstarter campaigns in which we think like, oh wow, like why wasn't this successful? Oh, Shenmue was happening, so maybe this took away from it. I think that we launched our Kickstarter at a really good time. Like fairly quickly we got onto the front page of games, so it's like there doesn't seem to be a lot of like monolithic projects on right now. There's like the Friday the 13th game right now which we're competing with, but aside from that, like I think we staged this at a pretty opportune time.
I actually learned that there's another game that's competing with Friday the 13th, which is like the same summer camp-esque thing.
No!
Yeah, and they're not, like, I know summer camp became Friday the 13th, but this game is just kind of stuck in still being an inspired game. So it's the same kind of idea where it's one person playing as the killer and then 5 other people or whatever. They do 7 in Friday the 13th, but I'm like, oh, you poor bastards.
I kind of wonder at that point if you just like, let's just cut our losses and jump ship and just like let's all make this game then, you know, like as opposed to battling. I mean, which actually brings me to another question that I had. I was like, I'm not going to bring up Mirror's Edge. I'm just going to maybe let that organically come into the conversation. But you brought it up, so we talk about it now. I mean, it is in your best interest for Mirror's Edge to be a very successful game?
Oh yeah, totally. Like when we see that there are AAA games that are implementing first-person parkour, because we don't have like a demographics team that is going out and testing to see whether or not first-person parkour is a financially viable project to work toward. So when we see like Mirror's Edge 2 and all the hype around it, and when we see Call of Duty Black Ops 3 implementing first-person parkour, like we get pretty stoked about that, because it's like, they must have teams of people that think that this is a financially viable decision to make. Thus, Failsafe must be a financially viable decision. So yeah, I get pretty stoked on it, and I also think it's like a completely different game aesthetically, and like people who are interested in it are going to be interested in it, and like I don't think that like Coblobs 3 is necessarily going to detract from like the potential success of Failsafe.
Well, it's fun. I played Black Ops 3 multiplayer.
Yeah.
What running on walls feels real good in that game, you know, and I think I think, you know, even just something tactily like that, you know, can resonate in gamers' brains. So when they see a video like this, they're like, oh, that was really fun. I really enjoyed that. You know, I like doing the challenge maps in that game, so I think that I'll appreciate in this. Yeah, that's how it would seem to me. That it's just like, hey, if you win, we all win. You know,
sure.
If you're going to bring, you know, bring stuff like this to light.
There are enough people playing games.
It's just when it's they're literally the same concept. They're that close. That is unfortunate. I feel bad for those guys.
Yeah. Oh man, those 2 games, because they both had like, it was like summer camp and then the last night. I can't remember what the other game's called, but this is a question from Rawl that kind of ties into that. So how do you guys try to stand apart from these similar concepts of like parkour platforming games that that already exist or you're launching, alongside?
Yeah, do you want to? Yeah.
Aside from parkour, if we take Mirror's Edge Catalyst, we don't have a lot in common. We have a heavy focus on like creating this world rather than this like very epic thrilling story that Mirror's Edge is offering, and then just giving the players a fun way to explore that world, and then get connected to this cute robot character, which is a totally different experience from what I think Mirror's Edge Catalyst is trying to do. So I don't think it's gonna be a problem. It's like there are so many first-person shooters offering many different experiences. It's just the same with first-person action games.
Do you believe that there's clearly like a point of no return of when you're allowed to be influenced by other things as far as like game development? It was like, okay, now once we pass this, great idea, Jim, but we don't have time. We really got to just realize our vision, finish the game,
Yeah, I mean, it's so contextual, it depends on what is happening around that to make that call. I think that there definitely will be a point where it's like we're going to have to freeze our features, which is because like we do have so many ideas, and we do have a lot of aspirations for what Failsafe will be, both in terms of the narrative and the gameplay. And so, yeah, it's just like decisions, especially in video games, like can blow up scope so fast. And so just having to make the calls of like, this is going to be the defining factor of keeping the game on track for a year and a half, or making it take 4 or 5 years. And that's definitely something that we don't want to do. Yeah.
Can you tell me more about this tiny robot companion?
I believe it's a cute tiny robot companion.
Yes, the robot.
Better be cute, Gigi. Better be
Dante
cute.
Bosco's character. He's a product of the old civilization.
Okay.
And Istra is initially brought up to despise those types of creatures. And so the characters initially are very tentative of one another. And that's a part of their story is overcoming these old biases that were told for them to have by other people. Like, they weren't allowed to build these opinions of one another for themselves. It was engineered, and so that's a part of their relationship, is overcoming those biases.
It's too bad that doesn't really reflect on our current society at all. I mean, thankfully, that's something, as a society, we've really kind of moved past that. So, it's like,
yeah, 100%, totally.
An old theme, really, guys.
We are in a social utopia. We did it.
This is from Spud1231. Have either of you ever played Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door?
No, have you? No.
No?
Oh my god.
Neither.
I'm so sorry.
No.
I wish I could say that.
Don't apologize to us.
I highly recommend it.
Oh, okay, Spud.
Sorry, Spud.
Not happening, Spud. Ian, have you played Paper Mario?
No, but I had a different question.
Bring it.
I still don't. I love this game, but I'm still not sure how to say it. But have either of you played Naissance E or Nascence E?
I have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
Ian.
It's a crazy ass indie game that's. I think it partially doesn't want you to play it, but
okay.
It has a black and white world, but the world design, you guys might want to take a look. It's
okay.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's got this crazy city and stuff.
Word.
Parts of Failsafe reminded me of it a little bit.
Cool.
In a good
awesome.
way.
I'll hit you up about it again.
Yeah, it's rad.
First
Nice.
Paper Mario.
First Paper Mario. That Paper Mario had a long title though. That sounds like.
And the Thousand-Year Door, yeah.
And the Thousand-Year Door. Okay.
Great game though.
Word. Is there Paper Mario doing parkour in it?
No.
Okay.
No, our chat just loves it.
We had a little bit of parkour in LEGO Dimensions, actually. Right when we were talking about it, they were scaling up the side of the
Yeah. I saw
the building.
Peter Capaldi hanging off a balcony.
Yep. More questions.
Oh, you guys want more questions?
I think we can squeeze in one more.
Yeah.
Make it saucy.
Oh, Ronaldo says, I ask it every time, but what system is it for, and can I get it for my PS4?
Oh man, okay, so PC, Mac, Linux initial release. We are still figuring out console distribution, so I cannot say anything definitive about it right now. I can say I would love to be on the PS4. It's just that we don't have any sort of time frame on it at the moment.
Picking sides.
I don't have a lot to say about it, but I would like to be on the PS4.
And this is a question from Mike Hook. Today is Stress Awareness Day, so should we be aware of the stress you guys are going through with creating a video game?
Sure. Yes.
Chime in on that.
Yeah, gosh.
Because you seem really stressed out, CJ. I'll be honest, man. You seem like you were just at your
I'm
wits' end
recovering
right
now.
Yeah.
You should have seen me over the Halloween weekend.
Yeah, the weekend when like Seiji was putting the final touches on the trailer, it's just like I'd basically walk into a room, like lean over the table and stare Seiji in the face and be like, the entire success of this is on your shoulders, and then leave dramatically. And I would do that about every 15 minutes. And so
like Leslie Nielsen in Airplane. We're all counting on you.
yeah, don't freak out, but like this is what's happening. And so I did that for about 48 hours, and Seiji hasn't actually slept since. So.
Well, it doesn't show because someone in our chat says that he reminds them of a handsome employed Kojima.
Holy shit, he is a handsome employed Kojima. That's amazing.
Awesome.
You are those things.
Kojima's slightly handsome. I mean, he's not,
Handsome / employed Kojima.
I
didn't write it.
I love that.
Man.
I love that so much.
Well, yeah, I mean, thank you for offering up so many details about your game. But it still has a long way to go.
Yeah, man.
You still have lots of developing to do, lots of money making to do. I wish you all the best of luck.
Thanks.
So people if I just go to Kickstarter and search Failsafe, is that going to point me in the right direction?
Yeah, it should be the first thing that comes up. So yeah, Failsafe by Game Over on Kickstarter. Please support it.
Yeah. And you guys are just getting started. I think you got. I wrote down somebody like 20-some days left.
Yeah, we're on our 3rd day.
Yeah.
It's been going all right. We've got a lot of backers, a lot of press. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah, it's been good.
And now, just those GT Live numbers are just gonna, just look out.
Yeah.
Wait till you guys get up tomorrow.
I'm looking forward.
Turn off your phone.
All the Twitter mentions.
Any other place you would like people to send? Any, you want to pimp out your Twitter handles or anything?
So the company Twitter is @GameOverLA. The game Twitter is @FailsafeGame. And then our website is GameOver.LA. And the game website is FailsafeGame.com.
Sweet.
Yes.
Just really quick, just want to let you guys know stuff that is coming up on game trailers this week. We're talking about the top 10 sevens. We actually got a lot of fun little different shows we're doing this week. Did some trailer scores, which you don't usually do. I score trailers because I'm just obsessive about that.
That's awesome.
Paragon went up today. Call of Duty Black Ops 3, the live action trailer, which I didn't like, going up tomorrow. We reviewed Need for Speed. We reviewed WW 2K16. We played a ton of the Overwatch beta. Did it just played on that. Our games of November, if you're curious what games are coming out this month, there's some good ones. Our video went up just recently. Don's Design Lab. We had a new episode. We shot another one today. How did that go, Kyle?
Oh, it went so good.
Probably not going up this week, though, right, Kyle?
No, it's going up Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Going up Tuesday. So before the next GT Live, you can check out another episode of Don's Design Lab. More Huber Hype, more Final Bossman, more mandatory update, and GT Time. Correct, Kyle? GT Time is happening tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And you can check that out. And as we have mentioned several times, go to Kickstarter, back this awesome game. Like I said, I love your first trailer. I love
Thanks, man.
everything that I've seen of the game so far. I love first-person games. I want you to crack that first-person platforming nut. I want you to figure it out and gel all that stuff out. Thank you, chat. Thank you, guys. You enjoyed playing LEGO Dimensions?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes.
It's fun.
We're having some issues right now.
Yeah.
You seem pretty intent.
think
It
we
seems like
broke
we're going to
it.
wrap everything up, and you guys are going to be in here like 20 minutes from now trying to figure out whatever you're doing.
We think they didn't test for co-op on this. Brad is stuck up in his dome and can't come to us. He's trapped.
Can you maybe drop out and then you'll do a thing? Because that usually
there he
tends to
goes.
be the
Oh
song.
my
Okay,
God.
there he
You
goes.
just got to drop.
Brad's back.
Oh,
Next
no.
they can let me see inside.
You figured something out.
Oh my gosh.
Come on, Bart Simpson.
Come on, Bart.
Bart's out.
Come on, Bart.
Do it.
Not to distract. I'm just
Oh,
really... Okay, there we go. Okay, phew.
Yeah, Brandon, this is pretty substantial, man.
For a level pack, yeah.
Yeah, this whole
LEGO
Doctor Who
Dimensions.
thing.
Yeah, these games are extremely expensive, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the game. If you have to buy them for your children, or you eventually are just in Toys R Us and you're like, okay, fine, it's $100. Give me my game. Or you could take that $100, you could give it to the Kickstarter.
Please do.
Thank you guys so much for stopping by and talking
Yeah,
about the game.
thank you.
Good luck on everything we can do.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ian, for making everything pink. Thank you guys for playing LEGO Dimensions. Thank you for talking to our chat. See you guys next GT Live. Take care.
Take care.